I'm happy to join you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. P.S. Our nation is America. 5 score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous-ish big decree came as a great beacon of light to hopes to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the claims of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. P.S. That's like Ben Franklin's, a ton of green, cheddar. You know what I'm talking about, a lot of dope. Okay, that's what he means. So you know that. 100 years later, the Negro is still languishing in the corners. Oh, sorry, not just lasagna in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own lands. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. Hopefully it's a big check, because I like the big ones. I don't want a little one. I want a big check. It's like 5 feet by 6 feet thing, like those big ones you get on award shows. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a something note into which every American was to fall hard. This note was to promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, P.S. not women, women don't get to vote yet, will be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America was defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color, black people, are concerned. Instead of honoring the sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. It bounced. A check which has come black marked insufficient funds. Or bounced. I think it bounced. Mine bounced. I'm sorry. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. Especially because there's a lot of countries that are justiceful. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vault of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us, upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. But there's something that I must say to my people, black people, not the white ones. You don't count right now. We stand on the worn threshold of which leads into the place of justice, palace of justice. In the process of gaining the rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst of freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on a high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Oh dear. Again and again, we must rise up to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. Unless you're not Christian. The marvelous new militants, who wrote these dang words on this piece of paper, which has engulfed the Negro community, must not lead us to distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by the presence here today, have come to realize that it is their destiny is tied up with our destiny, mainly because we live in the same country. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inseparable bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. As we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. Cannot turn back, people. Don't turn around. I mean it. Don't turn around. Even if you see a big giant hot dog with a spinach sign, don't turn around. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? Question mark. We will never be satisfied as long as the Negro is victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutality that don't exist anymore. Hashtag Blue Lives Matter. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with fatigue and travel, cannot gain lodging, motels, and the highways and hotels of some cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one, which P.S. I'd rather live in a smaller one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. Although they're not really white because everybody's colored, to be honest, because white is just a hue of, never mind. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro of Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro of New York believes he has nothing to which to vote for. No, exclamation point, no. We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteous like a mighty stream. Didn't come up with that. It was in quotations. I'm not unmindful that some of you have come out here of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Hopefully you were alone in that jail cell, because now we got problems. Too many people in those jail cells who stabbing each other with sharp little like toothbrushes, man. It's messed up. For hygiene, not for stabbing. Then you got blood on your toothbrush. Does it seem a little weird? No, just me. Just me. It's just fine. It's fine. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. Hashtag Blue Lives Matter. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Ooh, creative suffering makes it better. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. P.S. Georgia, not the Georgia that's in between Europe and Asia. I mean the Georgia in our states. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow the situation can and will be changed. Let us know that the wallow in the valley of despair. Oh, let us not wallow in the valley of despair. Not like hippos. No wallowing like hippos or pigs. I think pigs wallow. Hopefully they do. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, similar to the American dream, but not totally 100% the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out its true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. End quote. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, not red because of blood, sons of farmer slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood and eat bread. Pizza, maybe. I like pizza and ice cream. Pizza and ice cream, that sounds good. And cake. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today! Exclamation point. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists and bigots, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition something nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers in Christ. I forgot to mention that. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. Hopefully I read that right. This is hope. This is the faith that I got back to go this south with. This is faith. We will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair the stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to go to work together, pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, which already happens. I just want to go to jail together. That's messed up. Nobody wants to go to jail. To stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land of my fathers' God, land of my pilgrim's pride. From every mountain let freedom ring. Okay, put a ring on the freedom. Give freedom a ring. Just everybody gets one. And if America is to be a great nation, then this must become true. So let freedom ring from the swoosh, prodigious hilltops in New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountaintops in New York. Let freedom ring from the heightened allergies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the carved pointy slopes of California. But let only that. Let freedom ring from the Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. There's a lot of molehills. Forgot to mention that. A lot of molehills. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. Quoting songs here. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom to ring, give us a ring. When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet. Hamlet's like a village, but it's not a village, okay? Just letting you know. From every state and every city, we'll be able to speed up that the day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, oh, never mind, not the Catholics, we will join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last. So yeah, that ends it. Hope you enjoyed my speech. It was speechy. See what I did there? Speechy, like peachy. It's really fun. It's really funny, actually. If you think about it, it's really funny. How do I stop this thing? No, really, I'm not kidding. Someone get over here and press the button. I can't stop it if you don't press the button. I don't know there's a lot of buttons. Just press the button. Is that the